Rita and I were thoroughly shit-faced by the time my shift rolled around. I'd perfected the art of nursing a drink long ago, so I hadn't gone completely off the rails, but inevitably, sheer volume would always catch up with me. But I deserved to cut loose a little. It was an off day, and the weather was shitty, so it wasn't like anyone would be lining up to get in. We looked out when Mateo walked inside and saw us at the bar. "Well, look at you two." I tried to spin the bar stool and nearly tumbled to the floor. Rita burst out in laughter, and I was quick to join her. "Decided to open the joint up a little early, I see." "Bullshit," I retorted. "We've only been here, 4, maybe 5 hours, Rita?" Rita quickly shook her head. "Don't drag me into this, Jude. Mateo and I are the ones with the keys, so I'm not sure how you found your way in." I shot Rita an angry glare and turned my attention back to Mateo. "You gonna run to Susie and tell on me?" Mateo scoffed. "You know me better than that, but you'd better get your ass pried off of that stool and plant it downstairs before she sees you like this. She'll go ballistic." I considered staying right where I was. Let Susie walk in on me and go ballistic. Let everyone who doubted me lose their shit. I knew what I was doing, but I had a big discussion I still needed to have with her. So I did as Mateo suggested. I just did it slowly. By the time I reached my den, I was regretting all the drinking I'd done. I reached down and opened the bottom drawer, grabbing the small capsule of hangaway I always kept close by. Another invaluable skill I'd learned long ago. Never wait for the hangover to start. I popped 2 of the pills and swallowed them dry, nearly choking on them. While I waited for the meds to kick in, I pulled up the lease inquiries I'd made over the last few days. It was shocking how much empty real estate was lying around in a city that was about to burst at the seams. I browsed the most recent listings and deleted the ones outside of my modest price range, wincing as my eyes briefly caught sight of a beautiful office near city center. Maybe one day. I'd worked my way to the bottom of the list when one caught my eye. As I went through the checklist of considerations in my head, my heart began to race. The building was in a terrible location on the far north side of the industrial district, skirting the edge of the city limits. Judging from the pictures, it would take some serious effort to clean up the dilapidated space, but it had working utilities, no windows to attract prying eyes, and most importantly, a price tag I could afford. This was it. I was so close to realizing my dream. I had the idea, the location, the people. Well, most of the people. I glanced up at the ceiling. Susie would be in by now. Fuck, I did not want to talk to her even though I had to. She was the last piece of the puzzle, and if I couldn't get her on board, then everything would collapse like a house of cards. But that wasn't going to happen. I would prove V wrong. Once I was sure I could form a coherent sentence without slurring my words, I ventured back upstairs. I spotted Susie inside of her office and rapped against her door as politely as I could. Her eyes flooded with disappointment the moment they settled on me, and I didn't need the door to be open to hear her sigh. Still, she motioned for me to enter. "What do you want, Judy?" "Need to talk a couple matters over with you." Another sigh. "All right. Tell me what bug crawled up your ass that I'm expected to pull out." On any other night, my nails would be dug into the creases on my palms. Instead, I smiled. "I got a way to make you a ton of eddies." Susie's eyes perked up, though they remained suspicious. "Oh? And how's that? Would I be correct to assume it's going to involve you asking me to rescue another bunch of dolls off the street?" "Not at all," I said, my smile growing. "In fact, I'm the one who's going to rescue them." "Not in the mood to play games. Just cut to the fucking point. I'm going private, Susie. Starting my own recording studio." I let the words hang in the air. Susie's threat from last week was still fresh in my memory. I was certain she'd meant it, which made it impossible not to relish turning the tables on her. What is this, some kind of shit joke? It's no joke. Like I said, I'm starting my own business. I'm out. Susie seemed at a loss for words. I stayed quiet, knowing that if I fucked this up, I'd find myself out of a job and not in the way I intended. "You trying to shake me down for a bigger cut? 'Cause if so, you can get the fuck out of here right now and never come back." I sighed at the tired threat. If I wanted your eddies, then why the fuck did I just say I had a way for you to make eddies, huh? Do you ever fucking listen? Or is all that chrome gumming up the works upstairs? Goddamn, it felt good to see her eyes widen like that. It must have been the first time in her life someone had stood up to her with such casual ferocity. You're quitting Lizzie's? Righto, but not tonight. How long I stay in the den depends on you. Susie stood and walked towards me. I held my ground, even though the spikes lining her chromed arms seemed to grow sharper with each step. Go on. There was my opening. Here's how things will work. For the time being, I'll stick to my schedule just like always. Same cut, no changes. Well, one change. No more shady BDs. You put one more in front of me like the one you did a few nights ago, and I'm out the door for good. It wasn't shady, Susie retorted. And how exactly is that going to make me more eddies? I'm going to start scrolling my own BDs, I explained. I already got a line on actors and actresses. The dolls at Clouds are ready to walk out as soon as I open doors. And what? You're going to edit them here? I nodded. Are you high or just stone drunk again? Explain to me why I'd ever agree to this. 'Cause you're going to give up on contracts and move to a royalty system. Once I've edited a BD, it'll go on the market, and you'll get 30% of every copy sold, no questions asked. Watching Susie squirm as I outwitted her had to be the highlight of my week. But I still needed to be careful. And not just because she could throw me through the wall if she wanted to. A royalty system? Come on, Susie, think about it. Most clients who come through the door are dropping, 600, maybe 700 eddies for a BD? After my 30% take and the 50% cut the Moxes take, which I know you're not kicking up all the time, you ain't going home with a lot of scratch. Probably explains why you're such a bitch all the time. The last bid had put me on thin ice, but it was too good of an opportunity to pass up. I always kick up my full dues, Susie said menacingly. And I'm still not hearing how doing any of this is gonna put one more eddy in my pocket. Do you check the latest sales figures? Susie blinked, not having expected the question. The what? Fuck, Susie, the number of BDs we move out of here each month, have you checked them? They haven't come out yet. Of course not. But every other month is just sitting inside of those servers behind you. I did one for a client of yours who came in a couple months ago. A threesome scene, talented performers, good set, preem scrolling, and I edited the fuck out of that shit. You know how many copies it's sold since then? I don't know why I was asking her. She didn't have a fucking clue how her own business was doing. Maybe I was just more vindictive than I knew and wanted to rub her face in it. Just fucking tell me, Judy. I've had it to here with this. 6,000 copies, Susie. At 80 eddies each. I'll spare you the tough math. It's made almost $500,000 on the market. You remember what you charged him for the edit? $500. The dude who scrolled it is laughing his ass off all the way to the bank while you went home that night with a gonk grin on your face thinking you'd come out ahead with a couple hundred eddies in your pocket. One thing that I learned about myself over the years was that I became a lot more brash when I was drunk. More than most. But there was one thing that set me apart. I could think faster when I was buzzed, sharper. The sort of things that would normally turn into a jumbled mess in my head somehow came into focus with a few drinks. Tonight was no exception. Every number I'd looked at, every figure and eddy had rolled off my tongue with expert precision as if I'd been running the joint for years. Susie didn't know what to make of it, so I decided to drive the dagger home. If we had this arrangement back then using my actors, you'd be up more than 140,000. The annoyance and anger evaporated from Susie's eyes, and I saw something else forming behind them as she tried to make sense of the figures I'd just laid out for her. Opportunity. Susie returned her attention to me. You'll stay on, she asked, almost sounding hopeful, doing the same work under the same arrangement we have now. That's right, but no shady edits, I reminded her. You need to vet them before you send anything to me. Most BDs don't sell anywhere near that many copies. No, of course not. But even the ones that only sell a fraction of that will still make you thousands more. And the dolls want to work for me. I could see the wheels turning inside of her head. New clothes, a new place, maybe even a new car to replace that beat-up shitter of hers she still drove around town. The possibilities were endless. I had her. When would you have something ready? The question sent an unexpected rush of heat between my legs. This had to be what a dealer felt like whenever they hooked a new addict. Probably not for another couple weeks. I still gotta lock down some details, not to mention get this whole thing off the ground. Susie's brow narrowed. One question. Why'd you even bother bringing this to me? I keep hearing you bragging about all that gear you got at home. Why partner up with me at all? I decided to be honest with Susie, hoping the truth wouldn't fuck me over like it usually did. Because I'm a Mox. This ink on my skin ain't just some fucking symbol I wear for street cred. It means something to me, even if it doesn't to you. Susie pondered my answer, ignoring the backhanded insult I'd thrown her way. She could certainly afford to ignore more of them if she agreed to my proposal. All right, she finally said before pointing a firm finger at me. But you're saying these dolls work at Clouds? I nodded again. Then you're the one who's going to deal with any shit that comes from that. I don't want you barking up my tree if the Claws decide to come after you. We don't need another fucking war breaking out on the streets. You really don't have a good mind for biz, do you, Susie? Just told you I'm hiring the dolls. That's it. Explain to me how it's any different from any other studio. She didn't answer. Instead, she sat down and crossed her arms. Fine. But my cut'll be 31%, not 30. You owe me for all the booze you think I don't see you slamming down. Holy shit. Holy shit. I'd pulled it off. A silent understanding passed between us, one which didn't require a handshake. Deal. And one more thing. Give me the number of that girl you had me edit last week, Katie Elkram. Even though Lizzie's was dead by the time I found my way back to the bar, the high I was experiencing was incredible. Earlier in the morning, I'd woken up to receive an emotional gut punch by V. By the end of the day, I had a location all set to go as soon as I signed the papers, dolls ready to work for me, and a deal with Susie that would see us, finally getting out of Night City like we should have a long time ago. I needed to celebrate, and Mateo was happy to oblige. A vodka tonic, on the house of course, had been first. A second followed shortly after. As warm bliss slowly spread over me, a finger tapped on my shoulder. I turned to see Rita. Hey! She'd grabbed a spare set of clothes from her locker and changed since the last time I'd seen her. Shit, she must have had dozens of those low-cut shirts and blouses laying around. I couldn't stop my eyes from wandering lower, wondering what lay beneath the thin fabric. If I hadn't been with V... Rita slung an arm over my shoulder. Don't you ever leave this place? I laughed. Actually, I giggled, as if I were 16 years old all over again and had just scored a bottle. Rita studied me for a moment before turning towards Mateo. I'm calling her, she announced. No, I shouted. Sorry, doll. House rules. You're cut off. And by the way, hand him over. Rita held out her hand. I was about to protest my innocence, but realized there was no point. Groaning, I yanked the keys from my jeans and slapped them in her palm. Here. I poked her in the shoulder with more force than I'd intended. And you're gonna be my designated driver tonight. Rita pocketed my keys and winked. A sudden boom of thunder rattled the walls, making me jump. Thinking that's not a bad idea. I'd tell you to text me in the morning when you're up, but you're so blasted right now that you're not gonna remember a thing I'm saying, ain't that right? Maybe. Before she could stop me, I grabbed my glass and gulped the rest of it down. Besides, today was a shit day. Aw, does Judy need a little pick-me-up? My eyes narrowed into slits. Maybe. What do you have in mind? There was a devilish glint in Rita's eye as she turned and walked towards Xander's booth. After a brief conversation, she sauntered back to me. Mateo, can you get us some water? Coming right up. While Mateo filled a pair of glasses from the tap, Rita leaned against the bar and set a pair of pink, diamond-shaped pills on the counter. You ever tried Snap Coke? I shook my head nervously. Rita grinned. Don't worry, Jude. You're in safe hands with me. It's light. Kinda like dust, but less intense, and it helps ease you off the buzz. Mateo seemed unperturbed by the pills sitting on the bar top as he set the waters down. They're not addictive, Rita added. But if you're not comfortable trying it, then I don't want to pressure you. I snatched one of the pills before Rita could finish and tossed it into my mouth. A gulp of water later and I'd sent it tumbling down into my stomach. Rita was pleased with me. I had a girl. Rita took the other pill and followed suit. As I waited for whatever it was that was supposed to happen, I took my holo out and was surprised to see I'd missed a message from V. I opened it on my HUD and shook my head with a smile. I knew it would happen. The studio, the dolls, the deal, and now, the apology. Today was turning out to be a fantastic day. I typed a curt reply saying that I would be home later. Realizing how light and tactile my fingers were becoming, I'd hit send and looked up at Rita. Her hair was so purple. Problems? I shook my head. Everything's preem. I don't know how long I sat at the bar. Rita kept putting the glass of water in my hand and raising it to my lips. I complained each time, knowing I'd need to piss like a waterfall before the night was over. At some point, I snapped out of my euphoria. Mateo and Rita were both looking at me with strange smiles on their faces. Shit. How long had I been zoned out for? Rita, I gotta get home. It's late. They both burst into laughter. What? Rita slammed her fist against the bar. Judy, sweetheart, you've only been sitting here for 10 minutes. Their laughter grew, and Mateo nearly collapsed to the floor. Confused, I checked the time, and sure enough, my last message to V had been sent only 10 minutes ago. Fuck. This was exactly why I avoided new drugs. Dust, booze, even a bit of candy when I needed to get off after watching an exceptionally good Virtue. They were predictable and nowhere close as dangerous as sin or lace. Come on, Judy. Give it a puff and get high with me. I can't, Cindy. My abuela will send my head through the wall when he finds out. He ain't gonna find out. Here, take my lipstick. Put some on after and he'll never know. Does that actually work? It sounds like bullshit. Of course it works. Here, look at mine. See? Red as can be. Would never know I was puffing lace, would you? Alright, there you go. Breathing real deep. Feels good, doesn't it? Yeah. Holy shit. It's like I'm flying. Not yet, you ain't. Come here. I know a fun way to get some lipstick on you. I snapped out of my thoughts when Rita rested a hand on my shoulder. She seemed as calm as could be. Not for you, huh? I shook my head. I mean, I don't feel down or anything like that, but no, this shit's definitely not for me. That's alright. Xander owed me for clearing some gonks out of his booth a few weeks ago. Not that he's my go-to guy. I got my own source. I hope you're not angry at me. Why would I be angry? Rita shrugged. I just hope you didn't feel like I forced it on you. I don't want to lose your trust. No, of course not. I wanted to try it. I rubbed my temples. And now, I know I'll never try it again. Rita chuckled and put her arm over me. You want to crash at my place tonight? It was a tempting thought, but I shook my head. No. I gotta talk to V about some things. Alright, Rita said in a disappointed tone. Well, what do you say we get you home? Sounds Nova. I stood and squeezed my legs together. But first, I gotta piss. Rita was pacing around the lot when I emerged from Lizzie's. It had stopped raining, though I could still hear the faint rumble of thunder in the distance. We made idle chatter as Rita walked me towards the same parking garage my van was in. Her car wasn't anything special, an old Cortez with an engine in dire need of servicing, but what it lacked in substance, it made up for in style. Its turquoise frame was accented with bold hues of pink, matching the color of the Lizzie's logo outside the bar. A large mock symbol was painted on the hood, the only lock that was needed in this part of town. I stared out the window as Rita drove me home. She had turned quiet, probably so I could have some time with my thoughts and sober up. Row after row of neon-clad buildings blurred past my eyes. As much as I hated this city, it still had its moments of beauty from time to time. I realized I wouldn't be able to have a deep conversation with V when I got home. My eyes were growing heavy, and I was already dreading having to peel V off of the couch and getting her in bed. Just for once, it would be nice if she were the one to come home and take care of me. Rita soon pulled into the lot behind my apartment and came to a stop. Here we are, Rita announced. You okay to make it upstairs? Yeah, I yawned. Thanks for the ride. Don't mention it. Rita took my keys out of her pocket and handed them to me. Give me a call tomorrow when you're ready to pick up your van. Just don't call before 10, okay? You got it. Good night. Good night, doll. Don't call me doll. Rita kept a watchful eye on me as I climbed the stairs and only pulled away once I'd made it up to the top. She really was a good choom. My shoes were the first thing to go when the door closed behind me. Sighing with relief, I turned towards the living room and screamed in terror as I walked right into V. Holy shit! Judy, it's me. Jesus, V, I gasped. You scared the shit out of me. I'm sorry. V rested her hands on my shoulders to calm me. I was just standing here waiting for you and thought you would have seen me. My pulse was finally beginning to slow. It was a good thing that sudden cardiac failure wasn't a side effect of snap coke, otherwise I'd be a goner. What the hell are you still doing up? I thought you'd be sleeping. V smiled sheepishly at me. I wanted to stay up for you. I know I've been a lousy output lately. So that was it. I hadn't replied to her text, and she wanted to be forgiven for what she had said. It had been childish of me to ignore V, and I didn't feel good about doing that, but I didn't want to find myself right back where I'd started. I would swing this past her tomorrow for a third time, and no matter how it went, I was moving forward. V was looking at me with the true epitome of puppy dog eyes, yearning for my approval. The wind-up? It's all right, V, I said in a cold tone. The light behind her eyes faded. About my text, I'm really sorry about before. The pitch? I'm not gonna lie. It was really shitty of you to lay into me like that. I know, Judy. V was on the verge of tears. I'm so sorry. Please. The swing? I sighed and nodded, allowing a subtle hint of a smile to cross my lips. I know you are. Look, I'm just beat. We'll talk about it more tomorrow, okay? How about you start on your apology by helping me to bed for a change? It was like pouring gasoline on a flame. You got it. Home run. Even though I could have managed myself, I played along and allowed V to guide me to the bedroom. If it made her feel better, more agreeable. By the time V snuggled next to me, I was starting to suspect she was passing out on the couch every night on purpose. It had been too long since I'd been the one to get pampered. I closed my eyes. A faint throbbing in my temples reminded me I'd forgotten to grab more hangaway before I'd left Lizzie's, and I didn't have any water nearby to quell the dreaded cottonmouth that would certainly greet me in the middle of the night, but I was too tired to get up. V pressed her body against mine and pulled me closer, silent tongue in the air as she draped an arm over me like I was a stuffed animal. Her hand drifted towards my waist and my eyes parted open. Her breathing was quickening as her fingers tried to slide under my shirt. Fuck. I knew if I reached back and slid a hand between her legs that I would find her panties to be damp. It was tempting, since it had been almost a week since we'd last fucked. How had so much time passed? But I bit my tongue and guided V's hand back onto my waist. Hot breath rushed against the back of my neck as she let out a pent-up sigh of frustration. I couldn't blame her, and there would be plenty of time for that tomorrow, after we talked.